All right, it's 8:30, March 1st. We will call to order the regular scheduled Walton County Technical Review Committee meeting. First on our agenda is minutes. We have two sets of minutes, one from January 4th, TRC, and the other from February 1st, TRC. We can take them together or separate.
Make a motion to approve.
We got a motion by Bob.
I have a comment on the February 1st TRC. The Executive Business Complex is being reviewed by Tim Brown.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Sam with the one change on February 1st minute for item 17-0101. Any other discussion, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, move into, I don't think we have any announcements today. Any announcements? So we'll move right into the agenda. First up is Fox Lake Residential. Read it.
Yes, on Fox Lake Residential, we are gonna request a continuance because we did not receive yet our resubmittal. Still working on some issues.
Right. Well, we anticipated coming back to this meeting. Sure. My name is Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. We're the engineer of record and developer's agent. I just wanted to give you an update.
Right.
I guess the largest item that came up last TRC was to get some survey information on County Road 393 to see that it comported with the traffic, our traffic experts' assertion that the entrance and exit from that hill did not cause sight distance concerns. We've collected the data and the survey is being drawn right now, and based on my review of the data, I think it will comport with what she has stated in her traffic analysis. The remainder of the comments we have addressed, and basically we're waiting for that last item to put in the package and resubmit. So I would say early part of next week we'll have that submittal back to the county. I'd like to request that if it's deemed complete and the county has enough time to review it, that we be evaluated for the next planning commission meeting.
Well, the last TRC was continued, so I think we will need to bring it back to TRC before we can move it forward to planning commission.
Okay. But I don't see any new issues this meeting or new concerns, and I think it's just it was a matter of having enough time, and I agree that.
Right, but at that time it was continued, and we don't have anything at this moment to approve, so,
Yeah, I think.
Renee?
I'll second what you're saying,
That's-
because if we've never actually discussed it.
Yeah, there was
beyond
nothing
that,
actually,
we don't have a resubmittal to
approved.
approve at this meeting.
If the next available TRC would be April,
April 5th.
if it gets approved at the April TRC, then you'd be able to get on the April Planning Commission agenda, most likely. Is that
If we
true?
could look at that.
If y'all could work
Sure.
together on getting all the responses done, I wouldn't see a problem with that.
Yeah, my point is that we'll have the responses in first part of next week, if we can work with staff to review it, and we can come into the TRC meeting saying everything's been addressed. I'm fine coming to TRC to have that discussion.
We can do that, but if it's not gonna be approved on the April 5th TRC, then we'll have to ask continuance on the planning commission for the
Understood.
April.
Right.
Understood.
Yeah, it has not been approved by the TRC yet, so that we would have to still do that.
Yes,
Okay.
On the next one.
okay.
All right.
All right, so we have a motion to continue to the April TRC. Is that a second by Renee?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Does anyone from the public? We don't really have anything to look at and review, but.
I just wanted to ask, at the last meeting, I asked if we did any wind
Can
studies, and I
Can
was
we get
wondering.
your name?
My name is Nancy Meehan, I live at 285 Fairway Drive. I'm at one of the highest points of the ridge, and because they want to take out a bunch of preservation scrub that's there, I feel that's protected my property over the years from Hurricane Opal and Hurricane Ivan. With removal of that, and now I understand, I thought there was just gonna be single, one-story homes back there, besides the fact that it's still too many, there's still too many homes back there. I hear that they're gonna be 2, 3, and 4 stories, and I'm just wondering if any wind studies was done, because it is one of the highest points, down there in South Walton County, and you'll be leaving me completely open. My house and the house next door to me, the property next door to me, is one of the highest lots up there. So when you take out all that scrub and you build all those buildings, I think it's gonna cause wind tunneling effects, besides the fact that we're at the highest point and you're taking away our protection.
So our code, the land development code, doesn't have anything in there, any regulation regarding wind studies or wind tunnel effects, anything like that. So there's not something that would be within the purview of this committee. But there is going to be a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners, and that may be something that you could bring up then. But as far as the land development code, there's no requirement, so there's no section that we could relate that to say, yeah, that's a condition of this. So,
Okay, well, thank you, I
okay.
appreciate that.
all right. Anyone else? All right. So now we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Tim. All right, next is the South Walton County Sports Complex. This is being reviewed by Rita as well. Sorry, we are waiting on yeah, so we were can we move this to the end of the agenda? Okay, let's do that. We'll skip number 2, we'll go on from there.
Okay.
All right, so next we'll move on to number 3, Bud and Alley's expansion. This is being reviewed by Bob.
This is Bud and Alley's is a minor development order application. It's submitted by Emerald Coast Associates. It's requesting approval to build a 3,503 square feet to the existing 6,887 square feet for a total of 10,390 square feet. This expansion will allow for a larger restaurant, seating area, and associated storage needs. The project is on 0.238 plus or minus acres with a future land use of residential preservation. The proposed drawdown of the approved development of regional impact keeps the feet below the total approved DR storage square footage. And there are just minor comments that have been sent in. So this is just a reshuffling of the square footage that was approved in the development of regional impact. And I believe Dean from EPA is here to speak.
All right, again, Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates, here on behalf of the owner, and I'm the engineer of record. I've read through the comments and just had a couple that I would like clarification on, to make sure that we're getting you the information that you need. Under planning, number 8, the building that will not be drawn down will need to be identified for the development. Is that the southern portion of the building that we're not altering? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It was just confusing on the thing, so we thought that if it was clearly identified, that would help everybody in the future if something came later.
Okay. So identify it as,
Vacant?
this portion of the building not
Yeah.
be altered or not a part of this project.
That
Yeah,
is,
that'd be fine.
Add square footage to the building that will not be drawn down, that's the same area that we're talking about. Number 10, the existing tower location on the plans for reference purposes. What tower are you referring to?
The historical tower that's there, it's not part of your development per se, but for a reference point, we were wondering if you could add its location. So if we're asked as we go forward, where's the existing,
where the
we can
pavilion
show
is,
it.
it goes down to the walk.
The Coleman Pavilion?
Yeah.
Mhm. That's what he's
Okay.
talking about. It makes it a lot easier to see
reference.
exactly where you're at, and it's pretty busy.
Note as per parking or per agreement and existing parking.
Just note that you're using the parking like you've
Okay,
always done on the
parking
previous
allocation
ones.
For the essentially built out
Exactly.
agreement? Okay, you want that on the plans?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we addressed the survey thing, the survey issue
Right,
yesterday.
we're actually gonna redescribe
Okay.
the property to include that area that's,
That'll
where
solve
the
that.
little stair tower goes into. A couple of things that, whenever we resubmit, some changes that I wanted to point out that you'll see, just so that when you get back, it's not a surprise. There's a trash room and elevator that we're going to add. This will be a common element. Basically, what Seaside's going to be doing is the bulk of the traffic south of 30A is going to be unhandled underground. So it won't try to take it away from being visible and so forth. So this little trash elevator and room will be added. Property line will still be here, so this will be in common area, if you will, or area owned by SCDC. That will be an easement for Bud and Alleys and others in the future.
Is it common area on any?
Well, it's not, no, it's not common
Yeah,
area. I
that
call it
word is
common
not
area.
good, so, it's basically his property, but it's on the other side of that property line, and you're gonna create an easement for the two entities.
That's right.
Seaside will own the part where the garbage compactor and everything
Right.
is, but they're doing an easement for Bud and Alleys to be able to use it.
Right.
Got it.
The other thing is, we had our stormwater designed again in what would be an easement area for stormwater in Cinderella Circle. The problem with that is logistics. We started talking about it in a construction meeting with the contractor, and it really gets difficult as far as other businesses and keeping them operational, primarily the shrimp shack. So what we're gonna do is redesign the stormwater. There will be new stormwater in this area because it's needed, but it'll be down the road with another project. So we're gonna handle Bud and Alley's stormwater in the area around the building. So there'll be a new stormwater plan that comes in with our next submittal. Even though we were clear on engineering, we're gonna go back through engineering for the review of that.
Okay, is that gonna be substantial enough to require us to have to come back?
It's gonna be another
Kinda asking him on that.
exfiltration system.
What do you think?
I'd leave that up to Bill if he had any comments. We can come back without really seeing a need.
I don't really think so, because first off, that it's in that high permeability beach sand soil, so if he provides the volume and the exfills like he did in the previous storm design, I don't see a problem with it.
And kind of my take on this is the pre-development condition, it's all impervious already.
Yeah,
Right,
that helps
we
in the situation.
understand that,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
just wanted to ask and give Bill an opportunity to see if he's also.
Okay. All right. That was it, I just wanted to go over those, like I say, so that it wasn't a surprise, those two elements when it comes back.
Just make sure we got an affidavit from Seaside for that easement, allowing you to work on their part. I know that let's just make sure that if it's a different corporation name or anything, that we cover it.
Actually, this development order is submitted by SCDC.
I understand, but make sure that the corporation names are the same for both properties. If not, make sure we got an agent
Okay.
affidavit to cover it.
Will the new stormwater be on the Bud and Allen's piece, or is it gonna need an easement also?
Similar to what it was before when it was in Cinderella Court, that was part of SCDC property.
Okay.
It will be on SCDC property.
Is that other parcel under a different ID number? Do we need to,
It would be.
do we need to include that, modify the application to include that as well?
If there's a different parcel
If it's a
ID,
separate parcel ID,
absolutely. Yeah, we gotta make it part of the
I think we include all the
development plan.
affected parcel IDs, but I'll double check.
Yeah, because if it is, we'll have to change the map
Right, the map.
We'll have to include it, yeah.
and then the advertising too.
Okay. And I know you had made, there's a comment on here about parking, but just for clarity, because I know it's Seaside and it's always county, but the changes would be handled by the existing parking?
The existing parking is what it is. I mean, the build-out agreement give a certain amount of parking on the ground,
Okay.
and that is the parking for the build-out
Okay.
of Seaside. So there's no additional parking required.
But we just thought it would be safe to put that.
Yeah.
And that's why we want it on the
Right.
plan, so they understand why
Okay.
we didn't address additional parking.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Bob?
Is there anybody in the public?
Let's get a motion in a second.
Okay. Okay, consider a motion to conditionally approve the Bud and Alley's expansion minor development order pending resolution of all outstanding issues and comments.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Bob and a second by Renee. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to speak on the Bud and Alley expansion? Seeing none. Any other discussion or comments from the board? All right, we got a motion second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
That's good. All right, next is item 4, Alcoa Animal Refuge relocation. This is also done by Bob.
This is a major development order application submitted by Dewberry Purple Ridge requesting approval to develop a 106,211 square foot animal refuge center. The project is on 81.97 plus or minus acres with a future land use of the state residential and rural village. There was some substantial comments, if you remember, that's gone through peer review, but as I worked with Bill, one of the big stumbling blocks was, we wanted that survey put, but the survey is done, so there's no real reason not to conditionally approve it as move forward, because he has most of the comments addressed already, and then he's brought the property owner in to further explain any questions we may have from our comments.
Right. So Bill Menadier with Dewberry. This is Lori Hood. She's the owner and founder of Alcoa Refuge with Jack Huggins. We do have a laundry list of items to address, but I feel that a project narrative can address most of them. I think once Lori explains the intent of some of these buildings, it'll clarify the use. I know they seem like large commercial buildings when you look at the site plan, but if we can basically describe what the intent is, I think it'll address most of these issues. One particular being the horse stalls. They're not necessarily commercial stables, and I'll let Lori describe what that's going to be about. And then the uses of the cottage, and I believe the technical comments from engineering, transportation, and parking can be addressed by that as well, because it's just not really understanding the use of the buildings and what the intent was. So with that, I will introduce Miss Lori Hood.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So would you like me to just describe, I've made some copies of a narrative that I printed out for your review. I'm sorry, I have. Would you like me to read that, or would you like me to go through building by building?
Bob, have you gotten this before?
No.
We plan to provide that with the resubmittal just for documentation, but I was planning to have Lori just describe in her words what each of these buildings were going to be used for.
Okay, yeah, let's just do this, we can just go through the buildings then, if you
Okay.
want to do that.
Okay, so the way we have it laid out is in phases. phase one actually allows us to move smaller buildings, which I brought photographs of. They're basically just glorified sheds that we modified into animal housing. These are our dog kennels. This is an old school building that we currently use as an operating room that we're going to make a volunteer lounge. This is our cat building. Everything we designed in the past was designed to be movable, and these are just sheds for our quarantine. So the reason I brought these pictures in is because on the plan we've named it a super shed, and what that's used for is when animals come into the refuge, we put them through a quarantine period to make sure that they're healthy before they put up for adoption. So all the buildings that will be moved will be used for this purpose. So right now, since they are individual, when it rains, our staff has a horrific time trying to go from building to building and feed these animals. So we're just going to put just a large roof system over those buildings and put them all in one area that will be closed off to the public. So that's the super shed. That's what that building is for.
Right, for lack of a better term, a glorified pole barn,
It's
so
just
to
a pole
speak.
barn.
And so it's open air, it's not air conditioned, there's not concrete floor, it's these buildings with a big large roof cover.
Correct. So that's in our phase one. Also in our phase one will be our welcome center that also doubles as our offices. Do we have a photograph of that?
Is that what we have here?
Correct. So basically, it's a large barn structure. This is all open air in the middle. There's adoption offices off to one side and executive offices off to the other. The public, these barn doors will be left open unless there's inclement weather, and the public will just enter the refuge through there for visitation and for animals.
And so was that mistaken for the horse?
No, this
No,
wasn't the
that's
horse
different.
one.
All
What
right,
is it?
But-
okay, there's one more.
This is labeled as adoption.
Is it the adoption building?
Or I think it's the
Okay.
adoption building, and I think some of the not confusion but misrepresentation was that it's so large. All the kennels were included in it, so the building itself is
Freestanding.
freestanding, and then the kennels. I have a floor plan of the kennels, but these will be. I don't know if we have an elevation yet.
We do.
But the kennels will be off to the side, and so like I was saying, for the parking calculations and trip generation, the office space was
It's the
used,
only one, yeah.
and the kennels I didn't. But the site plan labels 33,000 square feet when it's not so much. So here the kennels
They're little pods.
Open-
They're little pods with open air, the same almost design where the public walks through the middle, and then the dogs are off of it.
And each one of those buildings would have 20 kennels in it.
And we're gonna try to start off with 2 and then allow room to expand as our organization grows. The covered horse arena, it is not included in phase one now, because we don't have the money raised for that yet. But we wanted to go ahead and add it to the plan because it will be a very important part of our overall structure. It is not used for public boarding at all. There's no stables included in it. It's basically a covered arena. It's got a little covered area off one side that doubles as both a stage, and what we do is we provide training for the community for horse care, dog care, all kinds of classes that are available to the public to try to retain ownership of animals. So we have an area set aside to where there can be somebody speaking and exhibits, of animals and training in the middle.
So there's no housing of any horses whatsoever?
Correct. No housing.
No housing,
No housing.
not even private housing?
Oh, no.
So,
should.
so Renee, with that, so that would fix meeting that
Private
section.
stable.
That's private
And that was
stable.
our concern, is that there was actually a stable there that would be
Yeah.
housing horses,
Right.
and therefore you would have to meet the private
the
stable in
acreage.
5.07, I think it is. So if there's not gonna be any housing of horses, that's fine. But if you start keeping them overnight for people, or if you're taking in horses where you have to keep them in overnight,
Right.
then we would be looking at it as a stable, even though you're not.
I understand. Yeah, we never do that, and all the horses that we have now, they do better in the open pasture anyway, so we never even saw horses there.
Should I call it an arena rather than a horse arena on the
That's what it
plans?
sounds like it is, but
I mean, because she shows dogs, don't you bring for the police dogs and
We
training?
do
and stuff?
training with the prison program, and they come out and we do adoption events that way. But another major use for that area is we have a program called Equine Interactions. So we utilize some of the rescue horses that are unable to be adopted for different medical reasons. Some are elderly, some have special dietary needs. And we have a therapist that works with autistic and special needs children with the horses. And we want to expand that into abused children as well, but they need a very private space because it's a very private issue. So that was one of the other main issues for
So
this.
you don't keep those horses there?
We do.
They're in the pasture.
Yeah, they're in pastures.
So you have, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time believing you don't have some type of stable for these horses. You don't keep horses in a pasture all the time.
We do.
So you never have a place for them to get out of the weather or be
We have
stabled
lean-tos.
or...
Lean-to areas.
Is that gonna
Which
be?
is just like is that just an open lean-to?
But with what she just described, that's closer to what the project you had, and they had to have stables, correct?
Well, that's because they requested a stable.
Yeah.
Right? It's because it
But-
was a private stable.
But there's not a requirement that they have stables. It's just if they're going to have stables, they have to meet
I think
that
we
certain
need
design.
to take a hard look at that to make sure there's no requirement for
Okay.
them to require stables, and if there's not, then fine.
Okay.
But if there is, we'll let you know.
The only
Okay,
time
I just
we
want
ever-
to make sure
Okay.
that if you're housing horses and you need a stable, that would meet those requirements.
Okay.
How many horses do you have right now?
We probably have 25.
Okay.
And the only time we ever bring them in are if they're sick or in labor or something like that. So very rare.
And then where would they go in the current?
I don't have a
Like,
design
you don't
for
have
that
a-
yet.
okay.
What I plan to do is our current property, we were gonna keep the special needs animals there until
Okay.
we looked into that further.
What is the issue of not having a building as a stable as far, I mean, I understand it's not a commercial stable, but a private stable for your development, being your 25 horses is a lot of horses, you would assume you had a stable for those horses in times when they're sick. That's my concern. Why would you not have a stable to have a place for these animals to be able to be out of the weather? I mean, like
Well, we
you
have a
said, they
place for
get
them to
sick
be able
and
to-
things like
Mhm.
that, but is it just why would you not call that a stable? I'm just concerned that it's a technical term here that we're having problems with, that you're actually are stabling these horses, but you're not calling it a stable in a sense. So I think that's the part that we kind of need to look at.
Okay.
What is it about the stable requirements that you don't want to call it a stable?
We've just found that they like to move and they like to be in.
Well, I
the
understand. I
pasture.
mean, most stables, even though they're not housed all the time, they still have pasture land where they let them out.
Right.
But, and at times they shut, but you're saying you never shut them up at night or anything because they're out in the pasture all the time. We'll check into it
Or they
a
go
little
into a
further.
lean-to that's open.
Yeah, that's what-
I get
Okay.
it. I
And-
mean, I've had
and
horses myself, I understand.
Right, you don't have to put them away,
Don't
they
have
can
to
go
put
in
them
and
away,
out,
but
so they can
25
go
horses
stand
is a
under
lot.
it to get out of the rain, but when the rain quits, they can walk out, where
I
a stable,
get
they
it.
have to be led in and out.
And
We-
shut.
We have the pastures divided to where there's several horses in each pasture. And sometimes we find that we have to feed them individually. So we have a design that we plan on using that's a lean-to system. And it's actually like a slot that they walk into. So when you can feed from the outside fence. And I wish I brought a picture of that. But the staff can feed from the outside fence and they walk in and they never back out until they finish eating. So
Mhm.
that addressed
Well, I can see that. Okay.
the issue of having to
We'll
feed
look
them.
at it. You're probably fine, but we just want to make sure.
I understand.
Okay?
And then so would the lean-tos in the pasture satisfy the shade requirements in the pasture? Okay.
I think. And is any of it wooded out there?
Yes, there's trees.
Yeah.
And then you're also gonna show the shade around the dog?
I believe the kennels are covered. They
Yeah,
they can go
covered.
inside
Okay.
and they can go outside in a run.
Okay, I remember we talked about that, I just didn't remember what we decided.
I know there's acreage requirements for horses. Do we have all those are met as well?
Square footage.
Well, they got 80-something acres here, right?
Yeah.
And it's an acre per horse, so fine.
I don't have any horses.
Yeah. Well, I knew getting to 25. That was
Of course,
a little
yeah,
more than I expected.
I'm assuming you're not developing over 20 acres of this, so the rest would remain pasture and woods.
Correct.
Well, I was just thinking, because you said these are sectioned off, these pasture areas. So I was just curious, I can't read the acreage number on what each of these pastures.
Well, and that's a
Acreages.
little more conceptual. We want to keep the natural trees and have the fences going
Mhm.
around those, so that was more of a conceptual.
And it's like their developable area here they're trying to show. I think the pasture actually would come on out further.
It will.
Okay.
And while we're on that real quick, one of the commercial stable requirements is about the manure piles and being stored and removed, and I just wanted to address that for the dog kennel and the cats, and they have a collection company that comes and gets it. It's
We
in
use a separate
dumpsters.
dumpster for waste, for pet waste.
And we're gonna show that on the revised plans, where they pick it up, big roll off.
Then how about the other question we asked you about the past animals?
Oh,
We have a service that comes and picks them up. We unfortunately put them in a deep freezer, and the service comes once a week. Okay, so also on phase 2, which is not included in phase 1, but we wanted to show it, we have plans to build a state-of-the-art medical clinic that is not open to the public for private animals to come in, but it's just for our animals on site. We have that designed to be a teaching hospital. We have partnered with the University of Florida and Auburn University. We actually have a scholarship in Auburn for 2 veterinary students that will come do their vet internships here. So we're really excited about that. But we have it set up to where it's a teaching hospital, not only for the interns and the vet students that come in, but for existing vets in our area in the Panhandle that can come and learn new skills. So it's there's glass windows that the animals can't see out, and there's little bleachers on the other side, so the vet has little headphones on and can tell them the procedures that they're doing and all of that stuff. And we also plan on having kids camps in the summer where if you're interested in careers in animal welfare, you can come and they can have more less invasive things where the vet can show them how they do exams and that kind of thing from the other side. So we're really excited about that. And we've also partnered with Walton County Sheriff Office to try to do like a mini what Children's Advocacy Center does for children. We want to do that for animals in this location too. So we have a forensics lab we're building, and there's an office on site for an animal investigator. So that will be their office, and so we'll do all animal cruelty cases out of there. They'll come there and our vets will examine them, so it's kind of a one-stop shop. So excited about that too. We have a chapel that the architects from Alice Beach are actually designing, and the chapel is not for public use for services on Sunday, that kind of thing. It's a place where we can have quiet meetings, or people can have a service for their pet that's passed, that kind of thing. So it's more of just a little icon on the property more than it's not open to the public for services. We put cabins and cottages on there. What those are, we purchased 2 of the Katrina cottages already, and we plan on adding more later on, but those are for the interns to stay. They're not going to be, public use. We're not going to rent those out publicly. So they're just for internal use only. And we plan on having, since there's not many places to have refreshments out there, we want to have a refreshment trailer of some kind. No fryers or anything like that, just maybe burrito stand or something like that to help our guests have something to snack on.
I think the restaurant trailer name is better than
Yeah. Okay, good.
what it exists, so that'll work. Yeah, we cleared, Mac was okay as long as we changed the name on it. I did have a couple questions. So in one of the comments, we said that we asked, are you gonna phase this? And if you're gonna phase it, you're gonna have to show the phase lines and then do a master plan too. So that'll have to be submitted with it as it goes forward.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be a big deal from what you already have.
No, what you see is basically the full build-out
Master plan.
and we'll
Yeah.
show you a phase 1 breakout of that, and then as we move forward, we'll come back with adding the medical facility, adding the horse arena as they do it, or as they acquire funding.
Correct.
And just to explain to staff, since it's changed, since they've all seen it, because of the fire marshal's comments, they're getting rid of the fountain, correct? And you're moving the kennel closer to the other
Well, the
other buildings?
adoption center's pushed back
Or
away from the
the
parking
adoption
lot. The welcome center, adoption center kennel area is quite a bit away from the parking lot. The reason was they were talking about a water feature. One of the fire marshal's comments was that it needed to be more accessible and there needed to be a road to get behind the building, but that's gonna move closer to the parking lot and we'll address that.
No, I just wanted to let, that was kind of the only real big major change, so I just wanted to give them the, okay. So, Mr. Chair, because basically we got this to them early and they pretty much worked and they're pretty much at a point where they can submit, we talked about continuing it in the peer review, but I think because they do have the survey, which we thought was gonna be time consuming, we just thought possibly just making this a conditional approval pending addressing their comments, because all the other comments already have been addressed or they're working to get to that point instead of just making them come back.
Okay. You feel everything that they've submitted, you think answers those questions?
No, but I expect it pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been in discussion and I think that narrative's gonna help a lot to understand what these buildings are for, and then I can address the comments.
Okay.
Moving forward, and I feel like we can submit it early
All
next
right.
week, resubmit it early next week so that
Okay.
you have plenty of time to review it before the planning board.
Could you just make sure you rename because I'll put this in and move it as it moves forward, leave this in, this description, and so can you make sure you label everything that, so if somebody's looking on it, they can find the description?
So the buildings that you've listed here match the labels that are on the site plan? Is that what
Well,
you're-
will.
Okay.
And as one of the comments was about providing a floor plan and elevation, I'm just gonna provide the ones for this phase one, the master
Yeah.
planning of the arena and the medical facility, that'll come.
Yeah, that was okay, I checked.
I
That's
think
fine.
one more thing that would be helpful is you actually give the acreage of what is pasture,
Okay.
and that way they're reassured with the
Okay.
horses.
Yeah, I think that would clear it up, because the way, with it being an 80-plus acre
Well, you've got a
parcel.
lot that's not gonna quite be pasture.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kinda where I
So if you
was-
get the acreage of the pasture and you've already got the survey, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Well, maybe just to drive that point home, they could put that ratio in
For a
the
horse,
data
in the side
table
data
to
table,
show
absolutely.
that you're massively over the requirements. That's just a thought.
And that'll help with the knowing there's not a need for
Yes.
the staple as well.
Okay. All right, so this is a major development order, so this will go, there'll be public hearings in front of the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. Is there anyone here in the public who has any technical questions or comments regarding Alaqua? Animal? No? All right. Bob, you got a motion?
Yes. Consider a motion to conditionally approve Adequate Animal Refuge relocation major development order pending resolution of all outstanding issues and comments.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Bob, a second by Sam. Any discussion, comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, next is number 5, Seclusion Cove. Rita?
Yes. This is a minor development order application submitted by O'Connell and Associates requesting approval of a 4-lot single-family subdivision on a 6.36 acres with future land use of currently small neighborhood, but it's pending small scale union. We have a few comments, nothing really major or critical. Do you have any questions?
No, I think it's a comments to address. It's pending, it's also a request, and we're working through that. We had a developers agreement we submitted a few weeks ago. I'm sorry.
And can we,
John Nash, I'm with O'Connell and Associates Consulting Engineers. We are at for the owner. Like I said, it's pending a small-scale amendment request that was continued at BCC last month because of they're waiting on a developer's agreement to come through. We've submitted that and coordinated with the county attorney for that. So I don't see any problems holding this up. We're actively working with the neighborhood that we're having to access this property through, and we expect everything will go well with that.
Yeah, as one of my comments here, that all of these reviews were based on approved SSA,
Right.
So if that doesn't go through, then we will need to do a new set of
And if there's any type
reviews,
of
but-
conditions or something with
Right.
that needs to be addressed in the plans, we'll coordinate with
Absolutely.
you all and make that happen.
But assuming that the SSA is going to be approved, we don't have major issues with this project.
And we hope that will happen on the 14th, I think, whenever the BCC is next.
So the current land use is small neighborhood?
That's correct.
And what do you?
LDR,
with the
low density residential. That was forced because we can't meet the mixed use
The mixed
requirement
use.
because we're behind a private gated entrance, and it's just not practical. It's not practical for this particular piece of property. It just wasn't assigned correct. Well, I shouldn't say it wasn't assigned correctly, but the neighborhood in front of it was small neighborhood also, but back when they did it, they didn't have to meet the mixed use requirement as long as they did. I forgot the number, 4 units to an acre or something like that. So they don't have one. We can't provide. I guess you could put something back there, but it won't work. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in anybody's best interest. So, and we're doing that. The small scale amendment is a down zoning.
Right.
You know, somebody can come in here and try and put 10 units to an acre on that property. So it's in the best interest of everybody.
I would have one suggestion.
Sure.
You speak of the
I'm sorry. On the smaller lots on the other side of the easement, I would label these as garage lots if that's the intent, so that 10 years down the road, when it's platted, once we get this platted, we don't want people trying to build a house on the side. Unless you're planning on doing accessory apartments to this, then we need some kind of limit to say that only an 800 square foot accessory apartment for a family member.
Yeah.
Because I've
I
seen
understand
these
your
come
concern.
back like this, and people try to build on this because it's on the other side of this easement.
Well, there are one lots that'll be available to have one house and one accessory building. I guess it's next.
If I can address, Melissa Ward, for Saxon Story, we actually represent the applicant on the part that has to do with,
So you know what I'm talking about.
to address Renee's question, if I may. We prepared I talk loud enough. We prepared the developer agreement, and the requirement for the developer agreement was that they are limited to one house and an accessory unit for each lot. Those sides on this, and they have to have covenants and restrictions and so forth. And this end over here is more geared towards where somebody would put their boat. And it's not meant for living units at all. The living units will be on the part that faces the bay.
So it would be good then if we had something that showed that. And that's my concern, is that somewhere down the road when these things get sold, somebody's gonna come in here and wanna do their house, the full-size house on the smaller lot. Or try to put another house on here because we have a road separating it.
No, I do. I absolutely.
So that's my concern, is that if it's labeled in such a manner when we plat it.
Right.
Well,
That,
I'm sorry. With that, that's one of the reasons why it was sort of forced to be an easement through there, so that there's one contiguous lot for each lot.
It's not.
And not to imply that there's multiple lots in there. There's only 4.
but it is the only access which separates the lot.
And I understand your concern, because in the past it's been interpreted that if a road split a piece of property, it became 2 lots, which it does not in this case, and we understand that. So do you, at the time of platting, want them to put on there that this is, somehow this is just for a buildable area for the boat, or this is for storage for garage only, or?
And that was my thought, is that it's just, not habitable space
Well-
that's gonna go
Well,
along.
it could
It's
be,
not
how about that it's labeled
it's
as
part of the
accessory
original
structures?
lot.
And I think you
Because
could
there's a
do
possibility
that.
it might be,
It's all one
what if they-
piece.
Hold on, let's just one at a time. What were you saying, Sam?
I said, just to show that it's all one developable lot for the, agreement, per the agreement for the one house and one out.
And
or
therefore,
cottage
why don't we just
carriage
note the
house, and
plat
that's
to
it.
that instead of trying to do it per lot,
Yeah,
like
to
Sam
describe
Sam,
that
put
that's
that note
one
on the
thing.
plat.
Yeah,
well, what we could do is we could put a note that says all the property south of the access road could be limited to accessory structures and not the main
Yeah, I think that may be the
Building.
way to-
the main structure.
You could limit that.
As I
space
could
to
see a
accessory.
situation where they might decide to,
the problem
To
is
build it.
whether or not somebody thinks they'd get it in, and I've seen it from your perspective.
Right.
Somebody on lot one says, I can sell my other half, and somebody can build, then they don't, they
Mhm.
actually have 2 units. But what we can do is we can, one, the developer agreement will be recorded in the public records. We put a reference on the plat to the public records for the developer agreement. And the covenants and restrictions will have to reflect it, that they can't build anything other than what's allowed on a single lot in that subdivision. So even if what we don't wanna do is call that an accessory unit lot, because
And I
then
agree with you, I think
Yeah,
that the
because
note
then
on the
they can
plat
go
will
there,
take
you're gonna
care of
end
it.
up
if it's
with a
misinterpreted
standard.
at building permit stage, you could have a single family with a garage apartment and then a garage apartment, and then that's just, it's increasing.
Yeah.
right.
I think the note will work on the
Yeah.
plat, just to
Okay.
state that this is one contiguous developable lot versus
Yes.
one single-family dwelling, accessory is applicable, something to that effect should
Yeah.
work.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome,
Anything
thank
else?
you. No, I don't.
Okay. This is a minor development order, so this is, if there's anyone from the public that has any questions or comments regarding the seclusion code? Seeing none, all right, Rita?
I make the motion to approve the seclusion code, project subject to all comments and condition being met and the plat labeled according to our discussion.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Rita and a second by Bob. Any other discussion, comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is item 6, Old Florida Village, Phase 2, PUD amendment. Bob?
Mr. Chair, this project, we're requesting a continuance until the applicant can have more, he can have more time to provide the historical records on the approved PUD. There is some conflicts with the proposal and the existing PUD, so we asked the applicant in a meeting to provide all the historical records that back up what he proposes, and he has agreed to the continuance.
Okay. This, is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to
I'll second.
continue it till April 5th.
We've got a motion by Bob and a second by Renee. Is there anyone in the public who has any comments, questions regarding the Old Florida Village? Okay, seeing none, any comments, questions from the board? Seeing none, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is number 7, Lot 16, South Walton Commerce Park. Introduced by Bob.
Mr. Chair, this is a major development order application submitted by ECM requesting approval to develop a 7,900 square foot warehouse storage. The project is on .078 plus or minus acres with a future land use of business park. Mr. Chair, once again, this was obviously reviewed and peer reviewed. We had a number of concerns about the proposed uses. I got an email yesterday from Mr. Burgess stating that it was going to be a wine warehouse and the tasting center was going to be for salespeople only. But the concern is both public, or Dewberry and myself have, and fellow staff members had, that this looks much like a microbrewery that is in that development. And if it is just for the salespeople to come in, why does there have to be 32 chairs provided? I mean, is there gonna be 32 salesmen in all at once? So we asked for a more detailed breakdown, and we also felt that the parking should be changed to reflect that. And I believe Bill has some pictures of a nearby use that's overflowing the parking lot. And we just didn't want to create an additional burden on the access road to the business park.
Yeah, the use is just unclear, and I just was referencing Grayton Beer. I've been out there several times, and they're parking along the side of the Sonoa roadway, and this looks fairly similar to that, where you have a big warehouse for your brewing operation, and then you have quote-unquote the tasting room that sells and serves.
Tom Talty for ECM. Unfortunately, the architect's not here. I'm basing what I know on what he has told me, is that's essentially what it is. It's a tasting room because they don't want to do point of sales, get a liquor license, go through all that stuff. They just want to have a nice, I mean, it's a little more refined than a brewery kind of deal. So I'm thinking that's what they're trying to go for. But again, I don't have that answer because I'm not the architect we're not doing the architectural work.
But if it's a tasting for salespeople, why would it necessarily have seating outside?
Yeah, see, I don't have that answer.
I apologize for that, but the
Architect's not here. I can get that answer, and then we can address that going forward. But
I mean, the use is not prohibited in Business Park.
no, I just think we need
It's
assurance
just
to
that
what
we
what
need
they're
to
gonna
make
use it for.
sure.
I understand. I just
We got
don't
it.
have the answer. So until I can talk with Tony Valley, I won't have an answer on that one.
If it's not, they're probably gonna need to revise the floor plan, because it shows a bar, and there's like 16 chairs at the bar, and then there's several high-top tables. I mean,
And
it just says.
outside
seating.
And there's
And outside
outside seating.
seating.
So if it goes from a salesperson tasting room to an actual tasting room, what we've seen in the other similar uses out there, is the concern is the parking
Yes.
increase?
And traffic.
And traffic?
It's been made clear to us at least, that they have no plan to serve the general public. This is not a wine bar. This is a winery that produces wine to be shipped. And that's what's been told to us. And we need to check that again,
Yeah.
but that is, my understanding is they're not gonna have a liquor license, so you can't come in there, sit down, have a glass of wine.
Well, I
walk out.
understand, but you're doing a booming day if you have about 32 salesmen sampling them at the same time.
But I understand the issue, but what I'm saying is that from my understanding, this is not a microbrewery where people come in and have a couple beers and, sandwich and walk out. I like them personally, but that's not what I understand this to be.
Since we don't really have an answer to that question, is that something that you would still feel comfortable with approving, or is that something that we're going to need to come back to TRC?
I mean, we could do it either way. I felt conditionally approved, and then if they can't document that it's not, that at the next level it would be. But if it's the wish of the committee to bring it back, I would have no objection.
And code out later, that's not all you can do. I mean, we're basically on whatever they tell us.
Yeah, but my only concern is that because it could wind up being a pretty significant change if.
I agree. I don't know exactly how to. I'd like it to move forward, and then we can work this out. And if we can't work it out, then we're going to fail at planning commission anyway. But
The separate.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what
we
I was
won't move
thinking.
that far,
It
so-
would never, I wouldn't schedule it for planning commission
so
until
we've
it's
got to resolve
resolved.
it.
There's your answer. I mean, if you're comfortable enough moving it forward, but we're just making it clear it's not going to planning commission until
Until
this
it
is
meets.
resolved.
Because
That
the
was-
I'm
If you're
fine with that.
agreeable to that, I think
That's-
that's.
an issue.
Because we have to resolve that specific.
Hold on, one at a time.
I agree. We have to resolve that specific issue, or the whole thing falls apart. And so, if we can move it forward, I don't want to waste your time or my time coming back here, just so we go like, we got fixed so we can move forward. I'd like to be able to, if we get it fixed, good. If we can't, well, we just aren't gonna go anywhere.
And Mr. Chair, we've done that on other cases that they just don't come back and then they withdraw.
Bill, do you have a comment?
Can I also add that a winery would probably need a large amount of grapes delivered on a regular basis? Typically, you see wineries with 100 acres of vines behind it, and the pastures. So is there some, I mean, maybe the owner can provide some kind of business plan to justify a winery?
Yeah, I'll bring that up, because that again goes to, I don't know nothing about wine except that I like it. And, you know, I agree. I've been to wineries, tasting rooms and things like that that are open to the public, and they have all that. So I agree. We're the civil engineers. I wish the architect was here, the owner was here, could answer your questions direct.
Maybe that can clearly define the use, that business plan.
And then that was also another concern we had at peer review is I believe the other uses out there will stay similar is what we're supposing this may be. Has special events and that there's buses and things and there's nowhere really on the site plan if that's being proposed even down the line to accommodate that other than parking on the just like that picture shows, parking on the street.
Yeah, I understand that, and again, I think the key to this is going to, let's resolve with, let me get with the architect, with the owner, and then maybe we'll come back down here and talk with you, Bob, because I need them to explain to us exactly what their going forward plan is, because then we can't civil engineer something we don't understand.
I mean, I guess I feel comfortable that conditionally, if you all do, to conditionally approve it pending that he meets the requirements for it to go forward, or it's just gonna get withdrawn. But if it's the wish, we can bring it.
All right, this is a major development order, so this will go, assuming it passes us, it'll go through the Planning Commission, Board of County Commissioners for public hearings. But is there anyone in the public that has any technical questions or comments regarding this project, South Walton Commerce Park? Okay, seeing none. Bob?
I'd like to still make,
We can do a motion in a second and then have comments, or do you have something you want to add to
Okay.
beforehand?
I can wait until.
I think there's pretty significant issues with this. I would feel more comfortable if it would be coming back to TRC. You know, just
I probably share the same
major.
concerns as
That's fine.
I think it potentially could be a completely different type of operation than what's
Part
been
of it needs
presented.
to be redesigned as.
Then I didn't mean to interrupt you. Then I guess I'll make a motion then, that we table this to allow the applicant to get his plans adjusted and not give him rushing him, so at his convenience, getting everything documented and everything sent out for review, then at that point, when it's felt necessary to go forward, we will move it forward to
Okay,
the
so
technical.
rather than continuing it to April's meeting, you want to continue to?
Well, do you think you could have everything?
Oh, I'm sure that this will light a fire under
Okay.
all people concerned.
Then I change my motion then we'll continue it till the April 5th meeting, TCC meeting, to review his new proposal.
All right, so we have a motion by Bob to continue it to the April 5th TRC meeting. We have a second by Rita. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Thank you
opposed?
very much.
All right, thanks. Okay, next is item 8, the Scene Station EV amendment. This is also being written by Bob.
First, let me go over, this is a major development order application submitted by Core Engineering requesting approval to convert office space to a sit-down restaurant space of 170 square feet. The project is on .0338 plus or minus acres with a future land use of residential preservation. Got some good news just before we walked in. The overall PUD, including, has had numerous violations. But this is an older PUD, so we were kind of using this opportunity, since we were amending the whole PUD. We met, it's been a number of months ago, with County Attorney Wayne, Mack, and myself, and we came up with an agreement to adjust the parking to what actually exists out there now, to try to get everything, the restaurant, in compliance. The goal was to, if possible, to get the restaurant into compliance. And there were other violations. Well, now I can separate the two. All the PUD separate violations are gone, and the only two violations remain that could be addressed if this is approved by the BCC would be the owner's use and the owner's sign. And part of that agreement was that we came up with the staff was that we were going to create a mirror sign that would cover the businesses on that side. So I believe the applicant also owns the other business. So his two, the restaurant and the retail, will be on exact post. And Melissa's firm has gotten involved and helped us move this forward. The comments that she got were pretty much what I told her I was going to comment on. One plus side is if we wouldn't have adjusted the parking that way, we would have had to tear up 3 spots that are mature trees, and it's a pretty nice buffer between the residential and the commercial uses there. The only comment I truly have that we can't, the code remains silent on it. The only difference the engineering did from what we asked was to put the loading zone by the restaurant. I kind of thought he was going to flip it to the other side of the restaurant, but he moved it down to his restaurant. I've talked to Mac and such. I mean, there's nothing in the code. I think it would be better if we could, but there's nothing that we can do to. So, I mean, if you're feeling strong that you want it in front of that commercial, because I just tell you why, when we went there to meet with one of the owners, we got stuck behind the truck that was unloading the food and we couldn't get around them. So I was assuming if it stayed there, that same.
I'll give it, to respond to that quickly. I'm sorry, Melissa Ward, Saxon LaSure, representing Mr. Afuda, and here with the engineer, Ed Stanford. Quickly, just to say, the Townhomes Association attorney from Dunlap and Shipman had contacted me. It is my impression from them, they do not want that loading zone on that side of the property.
Okay, yeah, I kind of figured that, yeah.
So Mr. Stanford put it as far away from 30A as he could put it so that you wouldn't have people coming off of 30A and getting behind a loading truck. That was the intention.
And there is cement walkways, paths to get it. I mean, it's going to be more work, but they can get it to the restaurant. It's not a mile away.
That's the loading place.
Well, there's also
yeah.
There's also Ed Stanford with Core. There's also the retail.
Yeah.
And so there's loading for both. Probably the best spot would be maybe closer to, in between them. But the opposite of the other argument is, well, 6 days, 7 days a week, there's really more customer and consumer related parking than there is loading. So that's another reason why we put it back there. But
so is there just one loading space?
Yes.
Yes. And
for this, there's a loading space in the back on behind the
for
other side.
That was existing.
And then where's the loading space then?
It's on
I see that one.
eastern, the other side.
Yeah, there's one there, and then there's one. You added you go to next.
Oh, do I?
Oh, that's pre-existing. There you go.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's proposed.
So I mean, I guess that would work. They have done everything else we've asked. One of my comments was, please show on the final drawing where that mirror sign will go, so we can pin those down. Like I said, I'm happy to,
So is that gonna be,
we just assumed it would be right where the
Right where
restaurant
the-
sign is.
Yeah.
okay,
I
fine,
mean, that's what my assumption
Okay, we'll
was,
keep-
but,
okay.
Right.
and then we'd like to kind of get the sign permit to catch up before it gets to the BCC, so we could say this resolves everything.
I talked to the sign man. All I know is they're getting ready to
That's fine.
present. So I don't exactly know when that date will be, but I'll contact him. Just for clarification, when Mr. Baranti was given the summary of the situation on this, the first is that this is a clarification. This original PUD was designated commercial. The parts that were commercial were just commercial, so it was very generic. And over the years, there have been a multitude of uses that have come and gone through that building. This designation and requirement for designation comes from the 2003 amendment, and then thus the county attorney's decision that because they labeled that building, not the DO didn't change, but that building was labeled as office, so we needed to change it by the plan. So that's where this PUD amendment comes from. It was originally commercial, which is generic, which allows restaurant, but it's moving towards being more designated areas of commercial.
Yes.
Also, his restaurant space is not 11,000 square feet. I think
1,100.
1,100.
that's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounded like 11,000. I just want to
I'm
put on the
sorry.
record, it's not. We're not
No,
increasing the
it's
size of any
1,170,
structures.
yeah.
Okay,
And
no
that's what
increasing
we-
the size. Thank
And
you.
that's what we agreed to, that
Yes.
square footage. So they've done everything that was in the memo that we sent out.
I have one question on number 5. This is marked the 2 first spaces on the
Yes.
east side. So these spaces here,
These
east
spaces
side
here.
or west side?
Oh,
west
okay. The opposite side of the restaurant.
Okay,
Okay, so that would be the east
West.
side.
West
Or
side.
west side, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Let me explain what happened there. We met with the other, that was one of the violations. At one point, I believe there were up to 6 golf carts there. The applicant, not the applicant, the first business owner that has ice cream slash golf cart rentals said that he had gone through the expense to add them as a charging area. So it was agreed that he would no longer keep all of those there because the county attorney agreed that his clients could be using that, and since they're charging stations, in fact, the code enforcement manager is going to go talk to him to suggest if they would put some kind of sign up that says, but I didn't mean for you at your expense to go, just mark it. So
Just put it on
in
the
the
site plan.
future, in the future. So those 2 spaces, and with the reallocation of parking, we're still fine, we're still fine by losing spaces for the loading zone and those 2. So our new, nothing will change on the ground, but everything will be able to come into compliance as
do we
per
need to
the agreement.
reflect that in here as those 2 being in our parking calculation, as those 2 spaces being charging stations?
I would say no,
No.
because if they're not being used as charging stations, a person could park their car there. And they're not,
Well-
that doesn't, the parking space is
That's
for
fine.
the overall, so.
Understand.
And
I'm just-
it's my
wanna be
understanding they were
consistent.
gonna check with Public Works if there was any, and maybe Bill could answer this, if there was any issue with them buying a private little sign that says, cart charging stations, parking only for those 2.
Is it going to be limited to electric car parking?
Well, it's not electric, I don't know
It's
enough about
not,
electric
it's a regular
cars
parking
that-
It's a
space.
regular parking space, but if you
If
happen
you
to
have a cart that needs to be a cart, not a
Oh,
car,
a golf
cart.
cart.
If it
Yeah.
needs to be charged,
Okay.
if you're a client of that
I
business,
got
you
it.
can
But
pull
it's
in
a
there and
regular
charge it.
sized parking space.
It
Yes.
is,
It's not a golf cart.
Yes.
right.
And that was part of the deal to get the other ones to agreement to get the other ones to leave.
doesn't say golf cart parking only.
That's-
that's-
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we
what-
want to make
that's
sure
fine.
that that's
We don't want to
the
eliminate the
case.
parking space.
Right.
Yeah.
But theoretically.
Charging available, can you just put that
Charging
on?
Yeah.
available.
That's a
But
good one.
theoretically, we, in our new count, we did kind of account for and remove those two spaces. I mean, they're there, the minimum
They're
parking
there,
still
yeah.
met.
How about this? If they want to put up a sign, they can? I mean, because
We're not asking you to do it.
Right.
If they do it, if they want to do it, they can do it.
Yeah, I don't think it would really be in sort of condition of approval.
No, it's
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Great.
It's just that we tried to get
Consistency here.
the only thing we can't fix, because it's engineeringly impossible, is the dumpster pad. Because you went out there, I've been out there a zillion times. We actually were there while the truck came.
Oh, yeah.
And he stops on the main road because he can't fit in
Right.
there. But that was designed, done a
Okay,
long
10 years
time
ago.
ago.
all right.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Any from you guys?
No,
Okay.
just glad to be here.
Yeah, this is
We're glad
a
you're
major
here,
development
too.
ordinance, so
And we request to be approved to move to planning
yeah,
commission.
there will be a public hearing at both the planning commission and the board of county commissioners. So if there's anyone from the public that has a technical question or comments, now would be the time to bring them up. Seeing none,
So I'd like to consider a motion to conditionally approve Casino Station PUD amendment, major development order pending resolution of all outstanding issues and comments, and move it forward, pending those, move it forward to the planning commission.
we got a motion by Bob, second by Rita. Any other comments or questions? No, this is good because this has been around, so, yeah.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you
All right,
very
thanks.
much.
All right. All right, next is Stonegate subdivision. This is being reviewed by Tim. Tim is not available to be here today, so Bob is going to handle that one for him.
This is a major development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering Incorporated, requesting approval for their development of 69 single-family lots on 19.63 acres with a future land use of low-density residential. There are a number of comments that were in, and I'm sure you've received a set of copies of this. So I think these comments can be easily addressed in the resubmittal going forward.
Cole Granger, Jenkins Engineering. Yes, we've actually already responded to these, and we plan on resubmitting this afternoon to you guys in response to this. So,
As long as mosquito control doesn't mind that ditch being.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, Ben came to the table, so I'm sure he's got something.
Yeah.
My name is Ben Brewer. I'm with the Director of Mosquito Control, South Walton Mosquito Control. We just spoke with engineer Scott Jenkins about the culverts being resized larger, and we'd asked for the easement on the plat for mosquito control, and he was in agreement with that.
But we, as we discussed before, we have nothing in our code that can create an easement for access to the mosquito control ditch. It's my understanding in the update we are, but it was the director's determination before he left that we.
We're asking for it. They
Right,
said
that
yes.
it
Yeah,
couldn't be a
yeah,
condition of
yeah,
approval,
exactly.
but you've
Yeah.
already spoken to the
Yes.
applicant there. So
Yeah,
that's, okay.
that-
He seems
that's
to think
fine.
it's no problem.
Okay.
So,
All right.
That's fine. And that's what's happened in the past, is they have worked privately a
Right,
way
okay.
to have.
So you guys are good with that?
yes.
Okay. All right, this is a major development order, so we'll go to public hearing from the planning commission and board of county commissioners. If there's any technical questions or comments regarding the Stonegate subdivision from the public? Seeing none, Bob?
A motion to approve the project pending resolution of all outstanding issues and comments and move it forward to the planning commission.
Second.
We got a motion by Bob and a second by Sam. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks. All right, last on the agenda is, we will go back to number 2, the South Walton County Sports Complex. This is being reviewed by Rita.
Who's that?
This is a minor development order application submitted by
Los and Associates.
Requesting to develop a 30.5-acre public sports complex on a 35 plus minus acre lot with the future land use of parking and recreation. The project is located about 1,400 feet north of Highway 98 and approximately 3.5 miles east of Highway 395 at the newly constructed MC Davis Boulevard. This project is, it's a Whatcom County Board of County Commissioner project. There was a various request for, to reduce the landscape requirements, which was approved. So that's good news. We have few comments, a lot of comments, but they are very minor. I don't see any reason why they couldn't be addressed quickly and resubmitted to review. Do you have any questions about any of the comments?
Aaron St. Pierre with Los and Associates. I agree that most of the comments are minor in nature and can be easily handled. I did have one question regarding the required versus proposed parking quantities per the LDC. In looking at Chapter 5 of the LDC, I could not find a determination in the use categories that fits specifically a park or recreation facility with sports fields so that I can obtain a required parking quantity. We do not have, the closest thing I could find was something that has to do with a general assembly area, which we lack. So if I can receive some clarification on that, that's one of the more critical items for me. Other than that, we are still coordinating with the state for our permitting, and we will be providing you that information as soon as we get it. We have currently submitted to EPD for the environmental resource permit, and we have submitted the stormwater pollution prevention plan to the state, waiting to get all that back, and I will be copying everyone on that as well.
Renee, I saw that you had some.
Is there a question on the number of parking spaces? Rick Wilson, for the record.
It's not my project.
Was there, what do we normally use for a park?
Public assembly.
Public assembly?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sports complex, so that's basically what you're getting is public assembly.
I would just remind this committee that we're working with the school system to utilize shared parking for large events. So school hours end at 3:30, 4:30, based on baseball and football and all this stuff starts. So in turn, we would use their parking, they would utilize our parking for after-hours events at the school. So that's why we try to only get the parking that Los and them use their expertise of what they would usually put into a sports park of this size.
So you need a joint use parking agreement and a parking analysis to show what those hours of exchange are.
Okay.
And I have one that you could use to look at if you like. I did one recently with Seascape on some of their, it's their own internal stuff, but might help you. But that's what we need.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that we don't think there is enough parking, we just need to establish a baseline of what we compare it to, that we have sufficient. And I don't know, this community recreation center, one space per 250 square feet.
And that would result in us providing approximately 30 parking spaces based on the proposed square footage, which is drastically low for the actual use. So we can show that in the table, but just wanted to make sure we were.
I think public assembly is your better, I mean, that's my opinion. It's according on the seats and stuff that they're providing.
Not providing many seats.
I don't see, so according to the chart, there isn't an actual allocation for public assembly. Public assembly is a category that then has some uses underneath it.
But it's in the public assembly that goes by seat.
And what happens then is you got bleachers out there for sports complex,
Correct.
you do the size of those
So that's
for
what
the
we-
amount of per seat, that's the
Certainly.
way that's done.
And we could certainly do that. That'd be no problem.
And
That wouldn't be a
that's
problem.
what the
So that's how we do it, is based off the bleacher seating?
It's based off the bleacher seating.
Just as a technicality, we do have some picnic tables available. Are those seat capacities also to be included?
Accessory to what you've got out there, then your actual seating for the events.
Thank you.
So if we just, okay, so it would just be based off of the bleacher?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And then if, for whatever reason, if there's a need for the additional parking, then that shared parking?
Yeah, the shared parking agreement may cover a lot of your parking.
We have an
but you don't
interlocal,
need
you're
that
saying we
much.
would need something for, planning department.
It's like a joint use. So, and that way we look at the hours of operation for them and for you.
Okay. Outside of that, my only main question is at the time that this report was generated, fire department had not yet provided comments, and we were interested to see whether or not that has been completed.
Yes, I have not received anything, but the fire marshal is here. You can see.
Sammy Sanchez, Fire Marshal, South Lawn Fire District. I haven't reviewed it. There's an issue with the review fees. The county has asked to waive those fees, and it is at this point it is above my head. So there's some other stuff happening that we're working on. So
What's the review fees we'll pay them so we can get the comments back?
the review fees for technical reviews are $200.
Okay.
But then you're gonna have impact fees too.
Of course we are.
That's gonna be a little more. So.
So when you asked me to write a letter asking for you guys to waive those fees, that didn't?
It went to our board.
Okay.
So.
Because you specifically asked
Yes.
for us to write a letter asking for waiving when we didn't
Well,
necessarily.
I asked you to write it because the plans were submitted to me and there was no check included. So I just assumed you guys wanted it waived.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where we're at. I mean.
And the board hasn't made a decision.
And the board has not made a decision. So I think my chief reached out to you. You may want to reach back out to them and see where they're at.
Okay.
If you just want to move forward with it, it can be easily settled today. It's reviewed. It's just ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything that was outstanding,
I didn't have any issues with it. I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure everything was pretty squared up.
Thank you.
Can I go back to the parking for 1 second? The buildings that are out there, did you say that based on the building and what you proposed was like 250 parking?
There's a standard of 1 to 250.
Well, the reason I'm asking, because your public assembly is your seating for your bleachers, and I guess for TRC, for the committee, are we looking at doing additional parking then on top of that, or just the public assembly for the seating? I didn't know if you were wanting to use what you had proposed on the building footprint on top of that, because public assembly is for your bleachers.
All right, so the building footprint, anytime, like for the concession stand and the call box and that?
I think public assembly alone would be enough, but I didn't want to override what Rita was saying about the building footprint in that one, so.
In addition, but one would be other.
Okay, all right, I'm good with that. So public assembly, I just want to make sure we were clear on that.
Certainly.
I got double thinking it.
Not a problem. Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Nothing that needs to be hashed out here.
Okay. This is a minor development order, so this is the public hearing for this project. Is there anyone from the public that has any questions or comments regarding the South Lawn Sports Complex? Seeing none, Rita?
I make the motion to approve the South Lawn Sports Complex project, subject to all comments and conditions being met.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Rita and a second by Renee. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of our agenda.